dried enough that it's staying in place. It's not completely dry, but it's dry enough to hold everything down. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a process almost like paper mache really, to strengthen the corners, because when you tend to pull a box, you either pull like that or you pull like that, and often that means that the corners get damaged and weakened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some layers of plain print paper just around the corners. You can, if you want to, actually soak your paper in a water glue mix, but I prefer just to put that inside just to get it out of the way. Just to put layers of glue like this. So in between each layer, paint on some glue. This is old paper. It's literally, we're just aiming to give some strength to this corner, and we will be decorating afterwards. You don't have to do this if you don't think your box is going to be used for very long, but I'm hoping this will last me a few years. So. Glue on that. The odd hole in your bit of paper really doesn't matter. The other advantage of putting this print paper on is that you've covered up the brown. So if you're using thinner paper to decorate, you are getting rid of some of the brown colouring, which is useful. Let's do another layer. So stick that down, glue all over. You can see why you want watery glue. To move on to the other side. I'm hoping that this will have, yep. So even that very wet glue, literally this is less than 10 minutes after I put it on. It's just enough to hold it together. Now this is not nearly as strong as that other side, so I will put a few more layers on this. I might even put some thick cardboard inside. If you want your lid to sit on top, you don't want to build up, put too much over the edge, you might need to make your lid a bit longer, give it a bit of a kind of hinge out of sellotape or cloth or something if you're going to do that. So for now I'm not going to wind it over the edge. If you paint a layer of glue over the one you've just put down, it means you can either stick another one on, but it also just makes it stick down a lot better. I'm going to put one right the way across here because this was all several bits joined together. There we go. So basically this makes your cardboard thicker and stronger. And you can put sellotape on top of this, either when you're completely finished or at an intermediate stage if you want to have some extra. You can also use cloth. Okay, so basically now we're ready to go on and cover it. So next we're going to basically cover the sides. What I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to have one that's going to be white so that we can decorate it with die cut shapes. You can see how to do that. And the other 3 sides I'm going to use with calendar pages. So I'm going to start with my white. Now for the white, this is where you can use some thick card. So this paper is fantastic for that, because the nice thing is it'll go right round the sides of most boxes. So it'll strengthen your corners, which are always the bits that get damaged. So I just need to, what I suggest you do, okay, so I'm going to continue showing you how to cover this box. Unfortunately, the work that I did to apply this sheet and these bits didn't get recorded. So the main thing about these is it's good to make your paper go around the edges, because the edges are your weak point again, and also it looks nicer. So if you've got one bit that you can put around the edges and then bring your next ones up so that they line up, that's probably a good idea. You can decide whether you want to fold inside or not. I didn't on that one mainly because it's very thick, but I did on this one. Again, it does make these thicker and stronger, but it does sometimes mean that the lid doesn't close very well, so it's kind of 6 2/3. So what I'm going to show you now is just, I mean it's pretty obvious, but it sometimes just helps. The most important thing is to put glue all over the box. You don't want to have areas where you don't have glue. You really do want to make sure you've put glue everywhere. And I have torn the edges of my green pictures because I'm kind of merging them together. They're overlapping, as you'll see in a second. And the edges don't show up quite so much if they're torn, but you're very welcome to cut them if you want to. There we go. Right, so I'm going to use, this is my big piece, is going to go here. I hope you can see this. I suspect you can't, but never mind, we'll see how it goes. Right, so this bit is going to, here we go, it's a bit easier to show you this bit. This bit is going to go here. So I want to just overlap, make sure it's flat. You have a decision as to whether you cut for the top or whether you're going to glue it down. I'm going to do a bit of both. One bit I'm going to cut and one bit I'm going to stick down. So basically with the corner, with the lid here, I'm going to angle it like I'll draw a picture and show you how to do that. So this one I'm going to put my glue around here and I'm going to fold that down. The fold, you might want to kind of crease along them, it just helps the paper not to spring up. I'm going to lift up my lid and I'm going to fold, which involves a little bit of tearing to the inside, and we need a bit more glue. The one thing you do need to be careful about is that some of these clips will mark the paper. So just make sure your clips are clean, that they don't have any marks inside them. So this one is going to extend like this. I want it to line up square with the end. And it's going to overlap on the other side. So I'm lining it up so that it sits on the table, so the bottom base bit is covered, and just slide it along and then fold, and again it's going to go around the corner a little bit, so I need to cut my angles. Glue on that, just give it a little bit of a clip. So the only bit left to do now is just to make sure that this sticks down. Now if you want to, you can use the calendar pages for all of your pages, or you can use some white paper and decorate it with shapes, and I'm going to do a little bit of both. Do be careful, you will get glue onto your table. If you then put your sheet of paper onto the glue, basically the glue will come onto the paper, and you can easily damage your paper. So just be careful that you wipe down before you put any of your pictures down. So we don't get too much damage. There we go. So that's holding down nicely. So this is where I am being careful not to, but I'm going to take those off just for now. That one got wet, this one didn't. And here I'm going to stick some shapes, and I'm going to bit some bits on the corner. So I'm going to put this bit of paper over, and again, because what you are going to do and what I'm going to show you on the video is to decorate first, not afterwards. So put your corners on if you're going to use corners, and then put these bits, because as you can see I've put this too high to go over. So I'm just going to put a bit in the middle just to give a bit of protection to the top. So I'm going to do that, trim it down. I just need to try and find my centre, but as I say, the more sensible thing is to put the top border and the edges on first, then you can decide where you want to put your decoration to go, and I think you'll find that much easier. I can't take my butterflies off now, unfortunately. And again, for something like this, do put the glue all over, because it's going to spring up very easily otherwise. Need some extra glue afterwards on this, because it's really want a longer bit coming over the edge to help it stick down, but because I managed to put my butterflies on first rather than afterwards, I don't have the space to do that, but you guys will if you do it the other way around. It just makes it easier to stick down if you've got a longer bit. And there we go. So that's the sides of the box done. Okay, so now the lights have come back on. So I will give you some various shapes. There will definitely be some butterflies involved. I'm going to be using some of these purple ones. One of those, and a couple of recycled ones. Let's use that one. Okay. And I'm just going to keep mine very simple, but obviously you can decorate how you like. And here you want to use your usual, you can put the glue onto the back of the shapes and then stick them down. It doesn't really matter what kind of glue you're going to use here, you're just going to be using your normal amounts. You don't need huge amounts like you do for the paper backing, sorry, putting the paper on. Feel free to draw something on here if you want to, decorate the borders or whatever. one thing you can do is to make some nice patterns on the corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some paper on the corners to make them a bit stronger. Sorry, I just realised you might not be able to see that. Oops, I realise that one's a bit too close. Hope I can get it up. Oh well, it's too late now. I am going to put these on the corners, and it's going to be a little bit close here, so I'll have to push it a bit to the side. I carefully folded the bits of paper in half so that I can see where the central bit is. So it's going to go like this. Can you see that? But of course I've managed to screw that one up a little bit, so I'm going to trim a little bit more off. Okay, that's just about okay there. And again, you can decide if these go over the top or if they just get cut off at the top of the box. Again, make sure there's nothing on the bottom to damage your paper, and stick down. The advantage of this, I can now press on that when I do the second bit. Once the glue's dried a little bit, it'll stick much more easily. So a lot of these things, if you come back to them in a couple of minutes, they're actually much easier because the glue's a little bit tacky, a little bit easier to hold things down. It won't bounce up quite so much. Now you decide whether you want to fold them in. If you do, you'll find that that's the problem. So you will need to cut into the corner like with the other pieces. Stick down. Come on, down you go. So now that will fold in, and this one can go in on top of it. And again, you can put a clip just to encourage it to stay stuck down while the glue dries. Done straight down. You can do either technique, either straight down or cut in a corner. There we go. Now you're welcome to decorate inside the box. I am not going to do that because what I'm going to use it for, it really doesn't matter. But I am going to put some decoration along there as well. Now the top you can make as plain or as fancy as you like, but I am going to just use a calendar page, but you're very welcome to do all sorts of other things, and I will try and send some die cuts so that you can have some fun with those. I'm going to film and cut some die cuts or something for you guys. So I'm going to use a calendar page. Most of the calendar pages won't be big enough for all the boxes, so you're going to have to find a way to kind of patch them. In other words, you're going to have more than one on the top, so you need to think about how you're going to do that. You could cut out shapes and make it like a kind of jigsaw of different shapes and different parts of calendar pages if you like. This is my one. So my idea is that I'm going to line it up like this, and then I'm going to put something else on the top there, probably a plain colour or a bit of green again, so I get the flower. Glue out. Again, going to use a lot of glue, and I think my my tub's running out. I had quite a lot in there to begin with, but it's all gone. Another reason why you water it down. There it is. So I'm going to line mine up so that the edge lines up with the edge of the lid, but you can fold it over the side if you want to, if that's the look that you want. It's all completely up to you. There you see, even that watery glue was actually enough, and you saw how watery that was. Mainly because we're putting it over a large surface and it's paper to paper. There we go. And this one I am going to fold it over the sides. Okay, there we go, that's better. layers. Won't take long. Once it's a couple of minutes it'll have dried and it'll be fine, and you can then take them off. You don't need to leave them on very long. See, these ones already, I can take them off. It's better than leaving them to dry completely, because sometimes the glue seeps through and actually makes the clip stick. You can take the clip off, but it will make a hole in your paper, which isn't so good. So I was choosing between these two, and I thought this was too dark compared to that, but I think that that is reasonable. I might leave the line there. Filled up my glue. So any bits that are coming up you can glue down, basically. Just stick some glue underneath them and they'll stick themselves down. So once again I'm going to line this up. I'm going to keep my line. I'm going to line it up there. Line it up there. Press it down. These two, and I thought this was too dark compared to that, but I think that that is reasonable. Your corner's slightly different when folding here, and you're best to show you cut like that, and then cut like that. Doesn't allow me to fold over, and I can cut that other bit off afterwards. Reasonable. I might leave the line there. Filled up my glue. So any bits that are coming up you can glue. Again, pop your glue in, let it dry and see which bits are left, and then you can always add some more glue then. There we go. So that's my box done. There we go, see already that's holding itself. So I've got calendars on top, calendars at the side, and then one decorative end. Now you can, if you want to, make a hole or use something to pull it out. You have the chance of cutting a hole. If you cut, don't cut near the top, you need to cut near the bottom, because if you pull, otherwise this bit will break. So if you're going to cut a handle hole, I'd put there. Or you can make holes and put some rope or some string around so that you pull from the string. That's probably what I'm going to do on this one. I had a much stronger box where I actually cut the handle. I don't think this one's quite so strong. And as I say, if you want to cover the inside, you could just use print paper if you want to, or you can use some more calendar pages. Completely up to you. Okay.